What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Sovereign Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Ruiz, and today I got on another awesome guest. His name is Nate Norman. So, Nate, thank you for being here.
Michael, thank you so much for having me, buddy. It's always a good time to connect, man. Link up with another brother. Similar mission, similar field, same purpose, brother.
That's right. Cool. Well, listen, this is the first time you're on the pod, so I figured a good place to start is to kind of get to know you a little bit. So, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you're about and what you're up to. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Nate. I'm from South Carolina, still down here in the South. And we're starting our second season. We only have 2 seasons down here, and we're starting our second season. So it's still about 85 degrees, a little bit hot. I work outside, so I'm used to it, man. But I love it down here. Wouldn't have it any other way. I've got 3 kids, and I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 9-year-old, and just trying every day to be the best dad that I can be, to come home with energy, to not slip into the couch again and just start the TV and push them aside, right? I'm coming home every day to try to be the best dad that I can be. And I'm on a mission to help other men conquer similar issues in their life that rise from laziness, that rise from procrastination, that rise from not knowing what to do. So once I found that open door, I kicked it in. And I love seeing men put the pieces together, those cogs click in, and finding that purpose for living, that passion for life, brother.
Wow, yeah, we're definitely aligned on that. I'm wondering what kind of led you down that path to start coaching other men, start trying to help them out. What was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, so the catalyst was me because I was just so flatlined, brother. Michael, I was just coming home every day. I'd crack open the beers, I'd get on the couch, right? And I'd just start that process, right? Anything that got in the way of my comfort was a problem, right? That included my kids, and that included my wife, and that included other beneficial things in my life that I just kind of back shelved because it got in the way of comfort. And I like to say it like this: when authority threatens control, the passive man will respond with a temper tantrum, right? He'll
Yep.
throw a hissy fit like a child. And that was part of the turning point in my life, is just no longer wanting to remain the same. And you and I have both heard this because we're in the same spaces. But when the pain of changing is greater than the pain of remaining the same, you will move forward. And at that point, bottom of the barrel, baby. That's it. We got nowhere to go but up, right? So
That's
that's what
right.
started this process and moving down this road. And I get a lot of life from sharing those tips and sharing what's helped me. And hopefully, Lord willing, we can help other men do the same thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a similar kind of story in that regard, although it's probably different circumstantial stuff behind it. But yeah, it was just same thing. COVID woke me up. The lack of leadership that I saw, and I was waiting for someone to kind of stand up and put a stop to a lot of this nonsense that was going on, or just some rational voices that I was waiting for, and they in the community, and they weren't coming up. And similar to what you said, I responded basically with a temper tantrum, right? I couldn't stay cool, calm, collected. I was frustrated, and these flaws started being revealed within myself. And I said, man, you know what? If there are no men stepping up, maybe I got to do it. Maybe I got to figure out how to become a leader or inspire other guys. So, we can push back a little bit so we can regain some of the territory in our communities. And that's kind of what got me started. So I resonate a lot with what you said right there.
100%, dude. If you do not see the man that you need in life, you must become the man that the world needs.
I like it. So, how long have you been coaching, and what's that like? You mentioned that, one of the things that really fires you up is seeing these guys make big strides in their life, making big progress, having things click. So, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the greater part of a decade, I've been helping guys, and just now in the last 2 or 3 years, transferred to the digital realm because that's where most of the market's at, is on the digital realm. But in the past decade or so, I love seeing men accomplish their first 5K, or helping somebody run their first Spartan race, or get out of the rat race and into the right race, and just helping men link up in life with what their purpose is. And I love it, man. And so for the great part of a decade, I've just been doing that in lifetime, and just now transferring to the digital age, trying to work my southern chicken pecking keys as I type my tweets. And, I joke with some guys, Michael, that I work a blue collar job still. And sometimes I have to sneak off to the porta john to crank out a tweet or two to spin the wheel a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, it's a noble mission, and if you could fit it in there, I found you on Twitter. I found your tweets inspirational. One of the things that I've been trying to do actually since COVID, because I got wrapped up. You get wrapped up in the news cycle and in the current thing. But I've been realizing that, a lot of that is a time waste. And really you want to surround yourself around positive people and become productive and put your energy not towards kind of the controversy, but towards building a better world. And so, yeah, I was glad to find you on Twitter and find your tweets there. And yeah, this is it's awesome. I think that's important. Like who you surround yourself with, the energy that you consume. You're gonna absorb some of that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, this is a reminder to everybody listening to curate your feeds towards positivity. If you are still following news outlets and all that, that's fantastic. But understand there are a score of people on the internet posting daily positivity, daily encouragement, daily motivation. And if you want to feel better, get around people who are living better, right? You want to feel good about things, start reading some positivity, start reading some benefit instead of being consumed with the narrative that's going on in our world. Man, just get rid of that stuff, dude. It does no good.
Yeah, it's funny because as I've begun to reorient myself and have a different viewpoint of life and not just be some passive and and um and actually trying to make something make a difference somehow in this world, impact my community however I can. It acts as a magnet. Like look at the conversation I'm having with you. You're high energy, you're positive. So I'm witnessing now how that actually can affect someone's life, and it's awesome.
Movers and shakers, baby. We
Yeah.
have a mission outside of ourselves that's bigger than ourselves, that's bigger than our comfort to be the catalyst points. I get so frustrated. I relate to what you said about looking for that man. I got so frustrated looking for that man. We have to be that, right? We have to be that. And that's no days off. That's no retirement. That's no I've done my time mentality. This is the mission for the duration of the game, right? For long haul, baby. We in this.
Yeah. So you talk about reviving the masculine spirit, right? Kind of waking men up. Is that what the gray man is? Can you just explain a little bit what the gray man is?
The gray man, absolutely, that's what it's about. He is colorless in his life. He is purposeless in his mission. He's just passionless, right? He is a living being, but not alive at all, right? He's got that 1,000-yard stare where he's present in the activity, but not present with the people there, right? He goes to the events and he does the things like he's supposed to, but he's not active in those things. There's no role. He's become passive. He's become weak. He's become soft, and his drive is akin to that of a child. He has no forward momentum or motion. And so when we talk about the gray man, there's a lot that men must do in today's society to combat that gray man. Michael, I just believe it like this, that the propensity for every man is to drift. Second law of thermodynamics. We do not move towards betterment naturally. We move towards decretion, right? We move towards entropy to heed death. That's what we do. So if you do not fight the gray man, that his propensity is right at the edge of the door. He's right there at the corner of your mind. And if you do not keep him at bay, he will rise and conquer the man that you want to be. It is a daily effort, a daily discipline, a daily pursuit to keep that gray man at bay. My pastor says it like this. He says, no matter how far down the road you are, you're still just that close to the ditch, right?
Yeah.
Means you can't let up. You still have to keep your eyes on the road. You still have to focus on the fact that there's a ditch right there that you could end up in if you take your hand off the wheel.
Yep.
And there's a certain set of things that we ought to do as men that fight off that gray man. What's up, pup dog? Look, he's just hanging out with us.
Yeah, let me open this window here because she's trying to look for squirrels out there.
Let me see.
There you go. There you go. All right. She can look out for squirrels out there that way.
He has
Um
something to say.
that's awesome, dude. So what there's a lot of men already in this gray man state, right? Have you seen men be able to come out of it? What's the approach there that you advise for people to revive that passion and look for meaning and purpose again in their lives.
Yeah, it's definitely possible for men to escape the gray man, to fight off the gray man. I'm living testament to the fact that it's possible, right? And if you knew me before and knew me now, you would say also that it's possible. All to the glory of God, man. Thank God that that he loved me enough to not let me be, right? To not leave me where I was, right? So I'm
Mm.
testament to that. And it is possible for men. And I'd boil it down to this: what you do on a daily basis defines who you're going to become. Again, who you surround yourself with on a daily basis is who you're going to become. Show me your 5 friends and I'll show you the 6th. You wanna be around rich, you get around rich people. You wanna be depressed, get around depressed people. You wanna be a complainer, same thing. You are the company you keep. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. All of these factors boil into overcoming this man. You need to get around good people. You need to do daily things that a good man ought to do. And you need to escape the idea of the matrix, right? And that someone somewhere is going to come and save you and make a way and spoon feed you the answers to escape the gray man. This is something that has to be internal. You and I would call this the why, right? We tweet about this, we talk about this all the time. You
Mhm.
have to find a why big enough to conquer the comfort that you've put your life in, right? You have to find a why bigger than that. And if you're completely okay with existing in the comfort for the duration of your life, then relegate yourself to the gray man, and that is what it will be.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like this quote that I'm going to butcher, but it's basically like you know, beneath this like mediocre man, right? And yearning inside you is this like potential that keeps on knocking until you finally answer that call and let him
Yeah,
out, you know? And that's kind of the picture that got painted in my mind.
that's good.
Yeah.
Question for that, Michael. How many times would that voice knock if we chose not to answer it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know sometimes for me, I was in a similar state where I was just drifting through life and I could I could feel that knock, right? And sometimes I would drown it out with alcohol. Sometimes I would drown it out with partying and distractions and so forth, you know? And so until one day I couldn't take it anymore, and I had to open that door, but that led me down to a long path. There's a lot that you got to unpack and work on. And so that kind of leads me into my next question. How important then, you talk about like aligning your actions with kind of the man you're trying to be, how important is that process? And like, how much dedication does it require? Because it is significant, but I think from my experience and from what I've seen it within me and the guys that I coach, that journey is very fulfilling and worthwhile, especially once you get over a certain hump.
Yeah. Dude, you hit the nail on the head. Every successful person that I've seen on internet or read their book has a routine. They have habits, they have applications that they do on a daily basis, to the extreme of like Joe Rogan, where Joe Rogan has so many disciplines and habits and things set up that he does that makes him that type of man. Goggins, same way. There is an action step every day that he does, and we were just talking about it on a Zoom call a little while ago. These action steps are they become so pervasive in these men's minds that, for example, if he was supposed to do 12 pull-ups in his workout or 100 pull-ups in his workout, and he stopped at 99 or he stopped at 11, said he went home and he couldn't sleep that night, and he went back and did the entire workout again. That's how imperative these disciplines are for the men that want to fight off the gray man and to become the person of purpose that God wants them to be. It's something that becomes so regular, like brushing your teeth or putting on deodorant, that if you miss it, you know you missed. And I always like to tell guys when they're first starting, you have to make these practices so routine that it feels off when you miss instead of off when you go, right? At first, it's going to be hard to get that traction going. It's going to be hard to do these daily disciplines, and it's going to feel off to change your pattern. But eventually, it's going to feel off to miss. You're going to go on vacation. You're going to like, man, I'm missing my routine. I'm missing my action steps. I'm missing my plans because you've become so accustomed, and your brain has wired now itself to respond to the action with endorphins and dopamine release to be a positive thing. Even though it's difficult, even though you didn't like it at first, now your brain's like, hey, what's up? We're missing something. We need to be doing something. We're supposed to be running today. We're supposed to be reading. We're supposed to be doing something that progresses us because it's a brain cookie. It's a little treat that we get for accomplishing that hard task.
Wow. Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story because it's going to flow right into this. But so I grew up single mother household. Dad was around, but wasn't around enough for me to get that that influence that I needed from a father. Um, but yeah, so grew up kind of, my mom had to control me, couldn't really do a good job. I went through life never really learning any discipline, right? Never really having any structure, never having any routine. Only now, over the past year, I've been tracking my habits. I've been really diligent planning my days, and the difference in productivity and the way I feel in my approach to life is just, it's night and day. It's really one of these things that I think is just geared towards men and how they function and how they operate. And so I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that. I know you got a program that kind of focuses on that. If you want to go more into that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, no one will understand who's not doing this, but I know you will because you do them. If you do the right things, the right feelings will follow,
Yeah.
right? So many times we base this growth pattern and this self development off of a feeling. Right? I don't feel like doing it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the father figure, and we don't feel like progression. But I guarantee that when you begin to do these daily disciplines, these practices, these habits, that the right feelings will accompany the right actions. You're going to feel right afterwards. Until then, you just got to want to. Absolutely. Yeah. So the disciplines that I feel are important to me, I have to specify this and give a little preface because these are important to me. It might not be important to every man, but I feel like these 12 disciplines typify what a man ought to be. And when he practices himself with these 12 disciplines, these are the ones that I run every day. I feel like I'm my best self, right? I am the best version of myself when I am completing these 12 disciplines. And so what I do with new clients is I offer these 12, but I end up getting them to write their own 12. You need to figure out your pillars, your standards, your principles, and your habits that are going to make you the best man, because this is Nate's list. And it might work for you in the beginning, but you need to fabricate and curate your own list. So Steve Harvey says this best, man. He says, no wealthy person is asleep in the bed at 8 a.m., right? They're up and they're moving. And so the first discipline that I believe a man ought to possess is rising early. He ought to rise before his family. He ought to take care of himself first. He ought to do what's necessary in the early morning hours. I call it the power hours. From 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's the power hours, man. You are getting more done in those hours than most people are getting done their entire day. A man ought to rise early. And dude, I'm a hunter, right? I love being in the woods when the sun greets the day. I always use it as a time to pray, a time to just welcome God into my life, to just listen to nature, maybe even see that big buck walk out, right? And it's just this beautiful, powerful moment in the mornings. And if you haven't tried rising early, it's the time hack that you're going to benefit from. I promise you that. You want me to run through the 12, Michael, and just give them to you how I do them?
Well, yeah. I mean, I got something to say about
Yeah. Jump
rising
in.
early. Rising early is one of the ones that I'm having a hard time doing. But yesterday went to bed early, got up today, and the first thing I thought of was, man, I got more stuff done by 7:30 than I normally would by noon. So yeah, there is a lot of benefit to waking up early when the world hasn't started yet, right? And getting that deep work in, being able to focus your concentration on certain tasks. You'll be really amazed at how much you can get done. And so it's one of these things where I'm gonna have to get some of your energy, Nate, and start waking up early like that, because if I want to take it to the next level, I think that's what I got to do. But yeah, if you want to run through your 12 disciplines, I like the idea. So real quick, I like the idea of having them structured like that, like a number, right? Because for me, I practice all these disciplines somewhat, somehow. Same thing with your 8 pillars, right? But it's kind of still out there. It's kind of still floating in the wind. It's kind of still abstract, right? But having, hey, these are the 8 pillars. Here are the 12 disciplines. Plug in your 12 disciplines that you're working on that work for you. It's like, boom, real easy, man. Real easy, real simple to figure out. And you can take it from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I I need that structure, right? I need a to-do list. I don't have it in a structure and I'll forget about it. I'll be
Yep.
on 8 and forget that I need 4 more to do in a day.
Yep.
And so when I wrote these out and when I planned these out, these are posted over my house. They're printed out on my bathroom mirrors. They're just reminders for me. This is what you ought to do because you said at one point in your life that this is what a good man ought to do. Don't forget,
Yep.
right? Don't forget. And it's funny that you mentioned the rising early thing. This seems to be when I bring on clients, this seems to be one of the hardest issues to conquer. If you are a night owl or not a morning person, whatever we like to categorize that, rising early is still the good principle, right? So what I like to do here, Mike, was the walk it back method. We got to plan. If we want to wake up in the morning, we got to plan the night before if we're going to wake up in the morning, setting out our gym clothes, putting water next to our toothbrush so we just can pound it in the morning, moving our alarm clock into the bathroom or the other room. Also, I don't drink alcohol, so I'm not up at night partying. I don't have cable or Netflix, so I'm not up watching TV or the latest series of Yellowstone or anything like that. So I'm walking back my winning the morning to the night before. If I wanna win the morning, it starts the night before, and I plan ahead to win that morning. My dad used to say it like this, "Nothing good happens after 9 o'clock at night." And I was like, "Dude, this guy's crazy, I wanna go out with my friends, I wanna do stuff." Well, it turns out he's right. Nothing good happens after 9 o'clock unless my wife wants to stay up and make some love. Nothing good happens after 9 o'clock at night, right?
Hmm.
So I try to be in bed by 10 and win that morning. And if I'm not in bed by 10, it's going to be that much harder to get up in the morning, but I still want to do it because I'm fighting that first battle. I'm winning that first victory over alarm clock. That's the first choice of the day. When that alarm clock goes off and you say, "Ah, I'm so tired." You just let negativity start the day, right? You just
Yep.
let a defeat start the day. How
Yep.
about you hit the alarm clock? Thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day. First off, thank you, God, for another day. I'm alive. I'm breathing. I got a bed. I got a house. I got a wife. I got a family. I got a job. Thank you, Lord, for a good day. I'm
Mhm.
up, right? It's like a little shot of positivity to get me rolling. And so you're not alone in that, brother.
Mhm.
There's a score of people that have shifted our hours. It's like our world demands us to stay up later now. It's just a we never shut off, right? The news used to be 30 minutes and now it's on all night. You could stay up at 10 o'clock at night and watch the same thing that's on at 5 o'clock in the afternoon 10 years ago. So our
Yeah,
world,
that's the challenge also too, right? With building an internet business is and taking your coaching offline uh to online, or adding the online component to it. It's there's that challenge there, but we need to build that discipline in order to remove ourselves and disconnect in order to kind of maintain that balance in our lives. Otherwise, we can get off tilt. And I do want to get into that too, because I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you focus on balance. You think it's a real important. It might be one of your pillars, if I remember correctly. Um, but it's something that I think about as well. I read this book. Um, what was the book called? Oh, it was by John Wooden, Wooden on Leadership. I don't know if you read that book, but he was like one of the winningest coach in the NCAA, right? And he really emphasized balance in that book. And the way I see it is, balance isn't necessarily giving the same amount of time to all the buckets of your life, but it's just making sure that you're covering your priorities and you're not neglecting what needs to be tended to. So I would like to get your view here on balance and see what your approach is.
yeah, balance is one of the pillars. There's eight that I believe make up a man. Everything's tied to each other. You know, I have the 12 disciplines, but they're tied back to the pillars. These are the virtues. Why would I want to do a discipline alone in itself unless I just wanted to be a decent man? But when you tie them to a virtue and you tie them to a character, then they're that much more potent. They're that much more impactful. Like spirituality, I have a discipline to read my Bible because spirituality and faith is a pillar. And without that faith pillar, why would I want to get up and read my Bible or journal gratitude or pray? Right? That discipline's gone now. So balance is the same way. I want to have balance in my morning and my evening. So I have a discipline like radio silence. That's where I come home and that phone goes in the bedroom, it goes on charge, and you're off the phone, you're not answering emails. And you and I both know this. We work a coaching atmosphere online, and so we're doing a lot of interaction, a lot of time, but you and I have windows where that interaction is its most impactful. Whatever time of day that is, that's where your interaction, you're responding, your brain's firing off, you're doing 9 times out of 10 for me, Michael, in the evening times, I'm not interacting anymore. I'm not creating content anymore. I'm scrolling, right? I'm
Yep.
looking, I'm just looking. mindless scrolling, or I'm playing a game or responding to text or whatever. So radio silence is tied to balance for me. That's where that phone just goes up. You just lock it up, dude. You can get back to it tomorrow. You can come back. But a man out of balance is all of a sudden upset because he can't find the remote control, right? He's just he's unbalanced in his emotions, he's unbalanced in his finances, he's unbalanced in his marriage. He wants every benefit that comes with marriage without any of the work that you have to put in for it. He wants a top shelf life at dollar store prices, right? He's just unbalanced in his views. Sometimes he'll hear something from the news media and say, "That's a good idea," and he's on this bandwagon. And then he'll hear something else from the internet and he say, "Well, that's a good idea." And he has no bearing or compass. He's just unbalanced in his viewpoints. And so that unbalanced point carries over into every element. He's not a balanced workout guy. He's not a balanced runner. He's not a balanced individual in his emotions. But when you bring into balance that man and he balances his emotions and his finances and his marriage and his faith and his fitness, oh, there's this tranquility that comes with balance, man. All of a sudden, you've got joy. All of a sudden, you've got peace. All of a sudden, you're not stressed out. Your heart rate's not sitting at 110 at a resting heart rate because you
Mhm.
found a balance point in your life.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like being unhinged or unanchored, and
Mm.
just being pushed around every which way by the wind. It's kind of what I got from that. But yeah, do you want to go over those 8 pillars, because I think they're important. And
Yeah.
if you want to break one down or a couple down too, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. So the 8 pillars are what I believe make a man of character, a man of integrity, a man of honor. And I don't know if you've ever been around a man like this. There's a bearing. There's a almost a vibe and an energy that comes with this man. Right? He's not being tossed around. This is a man. And I've seen it several times in my life and it's always very great to see. But every time I see it, it leaves me wondering what is it about this man that makes his bearing so powerful? Right? They walk into the room, you want to hear what they have to say. They're not willy-nilly with their words, they're just on purpose with their life. So these pillars, in my opinion, make a man on purpose. And the first one is faith. I believe a man ought to have a compass, a north star, a plumb line, a beacon of where his life is going. And for me, that's faith. I put my faith in God and he saved my soul, man, and I'm eternally grateful for my salvation. So the first pillar I believe a man ought to have is faith. Second one I feel like is physicality. A man ought to be strong, Michael. In a world that has raised pacifism as the standard of masculinity, we want men to cross their legs in tight pants and be a TV host on The View, right? That's what we want a man to be. He's in touch with his feelings, he's accepting to all ideas, he doesn't really push back, and he's got just a very very docile mannerism to him. He's not a threat. He's not dangerous. He's very safe. This man is very safe and very passive. That man's not strong though. That man could not carry his family out of a burning building. That man is not strong enough to withstand the ideals of today and plant his flag in the ground and say, this matters to me and I'll stand my ground on it. When we talk about strength, it's not just being able to lift your body weight. It's also an internal strength, a mentally strong, right? And you can only get mentally strong by testing yourself in difficult situations, by seeking and scheduling adversity. That's what makes a strong man. And when you meet one, you'll know. And so, me personally, I believe this pillar is very important today, Michael, because the world is eroding what strength in a man looks like. 50 years ago, men had to be strong. It was a prerequisite to living, right? They had to work on the farm. They had to fix things. They had to be strong men. You don't have to be now. Everything is brought to you from the food you eat to the media you consume. Anything can be brought to you. You have no need to be strong anymore, right? Almost the world celebrates it a little bit. I refuse to let men slip back into passivity. And that's one of the biggest reasons I feel like I'm fighting this war is because I don't want to see men slip into a weakness again, into
Yeah.
what the world wants them to be, which is passive, weak, controllable, and docile. I refuse, brother. I
Yeah.
absolutely refuse.
Yeah, it's kind of why, just to stop you on this pillar here, I got a couple things to say. Number one, it's like that's one of my motivations, right? Because when you put it in context of the cycles, um, that strong men create good times. Where have the strong men been? I feel like over the past 50, 60 years, right? The generations before us, they've been really passive and about their approach to life and even raising their children. So what we have right now is a bunch of, weak, underdeveloped men. I was one of them. And it's like one of my motivations. Yeah, let's make men strong again, right? It's something that's within us. It's we all have that capability, and it's like all you got to do is put a little bit of effort and you can strengthen that frame. So um yeah, and there was another thing that I want to say, but I totally forgot that point. But you can, if you got anything to say on what I just said, or if you want to move on to the next pillars, that'd be great.
I completely agree with you, brother. Many men find themselves in the similar situation. It's because we don't have examples to show us what strength looks like. So we kind of just guess and say, is this what a strong man should be? Is this what a strong man ought to do? So I think a lot of men are in the same boat. And we can attribute it to food, or we can attribute it to testosterone decrease in the last 10 years. We can attribute it to all sorts of things. But I believe the biggest problem with it is that culture has pushed away the toxic male, right? They've labeled him as toxic. That toxic male can do what we need him to do in the world, though, right? He's not toxic. He's not toxic at all. The world has labeled him such. So I feel like the alpha male, the alpha man has gone into retreat because the world has labeled him toxic. And so many men are in the same boat. They just don't know where to turn to see what strength looks like. They're doing what they've always done, and they're getting what they've always gotten.
Yeah. So now I remember speaking about strong men, and you said something there where you're like, hey, you can purposely seek out challenge and adversity in order to test yourself, in order to strengthen yourself. And that's one big realizations that I had, right? When I look back on my life and the different phases of them, I realized I didn't get really initiated into a lot of these these phases where you need to embrace certain masculine archetypes, right? And so I went back and I started training with Navy SEALs in the woods, started learning self-defense, MMA, to really like activate these kind of, you can call it neural pathways, but there's also something very spiritual about it when you're out there and you're testing yourself and your resolve and seeing what you got inside.
There's nothing like it, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. So if you're a listener today and you're like, "Man, I hear what you're saying, I just don't know how to do that." All right, get online today and book the first thing that scares you the most. Just book it, buy the ticket. I've got a wall full of medals back here, not to brag at them, but these are times where I've said, "I'm scared of this thing, so I'm gonna go do it." Frequently, intentionally, on purpose, schedule difficulty. Put it on the calendar. When it's on the calendar, it all of a sudden becomes real. You've got till November to train. You've got till March to get ready. You've got a year. Now it's on the calendar. I don't care if it's from couch to 5K or your first Ironman. Put it on the calendar. Whatever intimidates you, own it. Overcome it. My shirt says it right now. Own that obstacle, right? Own it.
Awesome. So did you want to get into some other pillars here?
Yeah, absolutely. We can run over those, man. I'm sorry. I get fired up about it, and I
I
get
love
I
it.
get
I
on my
love it.
little tangent, man. So, number three, third pillar is fortitude. I believe that men ought to possess a general sense of fortitude, and this goes back to what we were just talking about. How do you get fortitude? Well, you schedule and overcome adversity and obstacles. Right? You only get tougher by doing tough things. One of the things we do in my coaching is for week three for fortitude, we do an ice bath. Right? Let's get in this ice. Let's conquer our mind. Let's do a hard thing. And no, it doesn't get easier. You just get more able to handle. You get stronger, right? Your brain is going to start sending these signals and say, get out, abandon ship, shut it down, hypothermia. Overcome that, and you will build fortitude over time. Going back to our second pillar, I just believe men ought to have fortitude. They ought to possess this trait, grit, determination. This is like Desmond Doss, Hacksaw Ridge, Okinawa, Japan. He doesn't even have a gun. He's taking fire and he's bringing wounded soldiers down this Hacksaw Ridge and lowering them down. That's fortitude, right? Risking your own neck in the sake of adversity for others, right? For growth, right? This is someone like, I know it's a movie, but Rocky when he's facing down Drago, right? And Drago's looking at him. He's got his teammates around him, and he's like, it's like hitting a piece of iron. because he keeps coming back into this fight. That's what fortitude looks like. And a man ought to be able to walk into adversity and go back to it again, 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 and again. When others can't or won't, you must be the one that will. That's how you create fortitude.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, my story there. I mean, there's all types of ways to build fortitude, but one of them, it's similar. Going back to your cold, the ice baths that you're talking about. For me, it was a cold shower, and as I was building discipline, what I noticed is that, man, if I take a cold shower every morning, right, and um, I don't want to do it. I never wanted to do it, right? It's first thing in the morning, your eyes are still halfway closed, you're groggy, and you got to jump in this cold shower, and it's not fun. But I started to learn to love it, because how did I start my day? By overcoming that resistance, overcoming the urge to give in. And I was like, well, it's something that bleeds over, it spills over, right? It's like you take that kind of fortitude that you develop, right, and now you apply it to other things. It's like, okay, man, I don't want to do this, but I know I got to do it, so let me just get it done. And it kind of builds this muscle memory, or to take on challenges and actually work to overcome them.
Yeah, dude, it's like the domino effect, right? You
Yeah.
start this one in a positive forward momentum, and it just kicks over a couple more, man. You've started winning.
Yeah.
And dude, it's so cliche now. Like you see these TikToks about it and these YouTube videos, and they're like, oh man, these gurus get up and do just 6 things. Yeah, they do. All right. And you can make fun of it if you want to, but there are a set of habits that successful people do every day that make them successful. Right? Make fun of it if you want to, but until you try it, don't knock it.
Awesome. So what pillar are we on right now?
So the next one we kind of hit on this earlier was balance, man, and this just goes into a man being not a child, right? You need to be balanced in your emotions. I believe that. Fifth is honor. I believe that men should possess a sense of honor, and honor is a dying word. We don't really use the word honor anymore. But if you meet an honorable man, it's noticeable. An honorable man doesn't embezzle money from his company because he's honorable. He's got integrity, right? It means he lives life with the blinds open. There's no secrets. You can his wife can have access to his phone because he's honorable with his relationships on his phone, right? He's not flirting. He's not looking. He doesn't have to delete his history on his phone because he's an honorable man, right? He doesn't steal. He doesn't lie. He doesn't cheat because he's honorable. He's got integrity. There's a code that he lives his life by. So it's a dying word, but I plan on bringing it back because men ought to be honorable. You can trust an honorable man, right? You can trust him with a business. You can trust him with a family. You can trust him with children. You can trust him in church. You can trust him in every circle of influence that we have because he's a trustworthy man. He's not going to lie. He's not going to cheat. He holds himself to the code. Tying that back to our first pillar, where does that code come from? Mine comes from faith. My code of honor comes from God, and that's where I take those standards from. And a man ought to be honorable. I've heard it said that the best way to test whether or not your intentions are honorable is to go ask a female who is not your family member or your wife if they feel safe in your presence. They say women have a keen sense of sniffing out whether one's intentions are honorable or not. Is this dude a snake? Right? Is he trying to flirt? Is his body language and tone and touch honorable? It's a good litmus test for men to decide whether or not they're being honorable, especially if they're married. Now, if you're a young single man trying to gain a wife, it's a different caliber. But for a married man, there ought to be a standard of honorable actions.
Awesome. Are we on 8? Was that 7? Where are we at?
Yeah. Oh, I got 3 more.
Oh, okay. Sorry to
All
lose
right.
track here. But
No, you're good. You're good. I get excited about it too. I talk about it. I can go hit these pretty quick. Um, Number 6 is friendship. I believe a man ought to surround himself with other valiant men, and there ought to be a sense of accountability that comes with a man's life. You want to hang around beer buddies, or you want to hang around people who are going to call you up to a higher standard of living, right? If you take away the alcohol from a relationship, would you still have something in common with that man? And I say it like this, Michael. I don't want friends that call me up to go drinking. I want friends that will call me out for stupid behavior, right? That's what I want. I want men that are going to help me toe the line, that I could trust around my family. So men of integrity and honor should have friendships that value the same things. Number
let me
7
ask
is
you.
yeah, go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll stop you there. Yeah, and I want to ask you something about that, because it's tough for a lot of guys. It was tough for me. I have a lot of friends in low places. Let's just put it like that from just growing up. But then when you want to make that change, right? You do want to surround yourself with not necessarily better people, but people who are more aligned with your mission, more aligned with your values and where you're at now in life, right? And so, you know, what's been your experience there with guys finding a tribe, guys finding a good group to navigate life with? What do you have any suggestions on what men can do there?
Yeah, I'll make this in a couple areas and try to keep it quick. Let's say you're wanting to quit drinking. Okay, go to the neighborhood pool, find the dude who's not drinking, chat up a conversation with him. All right, I guarantee he's not drinking for a reason. Go chat it up with him, find out why. What's it? What is it? A religious thing? Is it a physical thing? Right? I joined a group of men called F3, and F3 Nation.com has workouts all over the country where these men go out at 5 o'clock in the morning to different schools and different areas of the town, and then they all lead the workouts. One guy will lead it this time, another guy will lead it that time, and I started seeing that there were groups of people that were intent on doing the same things I was doing. And so if I'm trying to quit drinking, I want to get around people who aren't drinking. If I'm trying to get physical and be strong, I want to get around people who are physical and strong. And when you start looking for these avenues, they appear, right? A church is another good example. If you're looking to homeschool your children or teach your children how to navigate the waters of public school or how to navigate the ideals of the narrative, right? Get around people who are already doing some of that. Look who in the youth church whose kids don't cuss, right? Look at church whose kids can have a conversation with an adult and make eye contact and shake hands. Like, okay, what are they doing, right? And you get around the people and make the friendships that are going to grow your life instead of hinder your life. If your friends are something you have to overcome, if they're an obstacle, they are not the friends that are going to help you grow, right? They're causing more trauma than they're causing success. They're causing more setbacks than they are setups. So find the people that are doing what you want to do and have a t-shirt from where you've been. Take them out for a cup of coffee and ask them how.
I like that. I like that. It's kind of what I've been doing on Twitter as well. You know, networking, you know, you can learn a lot of someone's personality from Twitter, I think, and what they're about and stuff like that. So I've been looking to connect with those people that I want to emulate, you know, that I want them to be a positive influence on my life. It's almost like you can curate your friends now and select for, you know, the type of qualities that you want to embody. And you know, I think that's pretty cool. I think we're in an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, you owe it to your progeny, your children, your family, and your success to find these men. They
Yeah.
exist and they are out there, and you owe it to those behind you to find them. And if
Uh,
you don't see it, become it, right? Start hosting a neighborhood meetup at your house on Friday nights and become that man that others can follow. Just start making the road, cut that road, man, which ties right into that next pillar, man, which is vision. A lot of guys just don't know what road to go down. They don't know what to do. We're just kind of hands up in the air. And the IRS taught us this best. The worst thing to do when you owe the IRS money is nothing, right? You got to do something. You got to pay them some kind of money. That's the same thing with vision. The worst thing to do as a man when you don't see the road is nothing. Do something. Pick up a small stone in the same direction 1,000 times and you've moved a mountain. Just begin with small stones that you understand, right? Move that small stone and clear that road. Cut that path. Michael, if you and I go into the woods with a machete and start cutting a path as the front of that spear, we're going to come out with scars on our hands. We're going to come out with cuts and bruises. That doesn't matter because somebody had to go in there and cut that path. Somebody had to have the vision to say, we need to get on the other side of these woods, and I'm going in and I'm starting to cut trees. There's got to be a man willing to do that. He must have this vision. I call it the scout mentality, right? Somebody has got to be looking ahead down the road saying, we need to watch out for this, or this is what we ought to do, or here's what we should do with our finances. Here's how we should raise our children. Vision, right? Sight to see. And again, tying it to the first pillar, spirituality. My vision, my sight comes from God. And that's where I take my standards from. And that's where I take my bearing from. That gives me the eyes to see outside of my physical eyes.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's one of these things where I don't know how many men know how to create a vision.
Mhm.
even the know-how to do that. What do you suggest there? How do they even start? The way
Yeah,
I'll just say real quick the way I approach it, and then you could tell me if that's a good approach, and then tell me your approach. Um, Kind of like you got to take these initial steps, right? You got to take these work on these. You got to take some type of action to get yourself moving, building momentum out of the comfort zone, challenging yourself, and it kind of starts to appear. That vision, that mission starts to appear to you. Then, what do you think?
that's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Small stones in the same direction. 100% agree. A good practice that I found with clients working with this is sit down with your spouse, or if you're not married, sit down with a mentor, maybe your dad or maybe a coach from the past or a pastor, and just begin to talk about your life, right? What did you originally see for your life? And is it that? Are you doing what you said you were going to do with your life? And begin to curate this vision that you have for your life. Well, I always felt that I was called into ministry, or I always felt that I was supposed to help other men, or I always felt like I wanted to be a doctor. Okay, listen, now there's a small inkling of a door cracking. Right? That's a vision gap. What we need to do is push on that door. And if that door's locked, we need to try another door. Or you keep trying until the door opens. But if you have the idea of where you want to go and who you want to become, the actions will reveal themselves that will lead you to become that man. You want to be a doctor, there's probably schooling or things that you need to do. If you want to run your first race, you probably need to start walking, right? There's actions that come with having that vision. But the first thing is to have that vision. Who do I want to be? Where am I going? And what am I doing while I'm here on earth? Time is ticking, brother. Time is ticking. I'm coming up on 40 years old, dude. I'm half dead, right? I don't have time to not have a vision. I want a bearing, a compass, a purpose, a mission. I want to go forward. I want to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about that sense of urgency too. That could be a really motivational force as well. There's been you mentioned this as well earlier, but the societal programming, I feel like in a lot of ways self-limiting beliefs have been installed through the school system, through the society, through culture. And it's
Mhm.
like you finally kind of wake up at one point in life and you realize, hey man, what I'm doing, it's not it's not driving this fire and this passion within me. I need to do something else. And you realize that the time you got left, and it's like there's that sense of urgency to actually get going, to revive that spirit and like you say, I don't know how to phrase it, but just to kind of put the gray man away, put him
Right.
to the side and wake up again. So that's
Dude,
interesting.
we gotta live our lives in such a way that the pastor doesn't have to lie at our funeral, right? When he gets up there and he says, "This was a good man. He gave his time away, he gave his effort away, he gave his energy away. He lived a good, valiant life." We're living a life in such a way where he don't have to lie when he says that, right? And it's
Mhm.
so crazy, man, because that tombstone that we're all gonna get one day, right? It's got those 2 dates on it, and it's got this little dash in the middle, and we're in this little dash in the middle. I guarantee you,
Oh wow.
no one remembers the 2 dates on that tombstone. They remember that dash. Who was this man while he was alive? What was he doing during that time between these 2 dates? No one cares about these dates. Yeah, we remember, hey, that's when so and so died. But ultimately, they remember what you did in that dash, what you did with the time that you had. Did you leave a legacy? And I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, you cannot leave a legacy that you are not living. It's time, baby. It's time now to crack that door open, to pick up the first stone, and to begin moving in the direction of the purpose of why you were here.
Wow. Yeah, that's I really appreciate how you put a lot of visuals to these concepts, like just that idea right there, right? The two dates and the dash, that's your life, man.
That's it.
What's that dash consist of? That's what you need to focus on. I love that. That was
I
awesome.
want a I want a big long dash between my 2 dates, right?
I like it. I like it. Awesome. Um, where we at? Did we cover all eight pillars?
Yeah, the last one is stewardship, which kinda encapsulates the whole thing, and, basically like this, God's given things into your hand that you were meant to govern, steward, and manage. Your body, your wife, your family, your finances. And one day, you and I both are going to have to give an account for what we've been given to steward. And so a man ought to be a good caretaker of what he's been entrusted to govern, right? There will be giving an account of our circles. And so we need to be men who steward well. And this just kind of brings the whole picture back into premise. Why should I do these things? Well, you have a responsibility and a mission to toe the line as a man. And when others can't or won't, like I said earlier, you must be the one that will. You have to steward it well. If your wife is not blessed and flourishing, bro, I'd check you. I'd check you. You are the soil and fertilizer that enables her to grow strong. Same for your children. If your children are vagrants, disrespectful, there's a reason why. We need to begin addressing the home. You are a steward of the garden. And if you look around your garden right now and you say, man, there's thorns everywhere, there's absolute mess in my garden. I have no clue where to begin. The best place to begin is with the first thorn in front of you. Reach down, begin weeding that garden. And eventually, over time, you may be able to plant a fruit tree in that garden where a thorn once grew. And people can benefit from fruit trees. They can't benefit from thorns, right? You are a steward and men ought to steward well. And that kind of brings the whole 8 pillars into perspective, right? You are meant to steward these things. That's
Aw-
all 8.
Awesome. Nate, man, that was great, man. That's a great rundown. Are you writing a book or doing anything there with that?
Yeah, so that the I'm so bad at writing, and I'm better at it than I was. So I don't want to say I'm bad at. I'm better at it than I was. It takes me a long time to write. So I've got about 20,000 words done for the 8 pillars, and I'm hoping to get that done soon. And I really feel very passionately about these 8 pillars because these typified me. Right, this is my story, and this is why I can talk about it, and this is why I can just proliferate on it because this was me, brother. And I believe that if God can use my shortcomings, my failures, and my successes to help another brother find a clear path, then I'm willing to put myself out there so that they can grow from it.
Awesome. Nate, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This was an awesome conversation. I didn't know, we haven't talked before. We talked quickly, but I didn't know really what to expect, but this kind of was fantastic, not only as a counterpart as another coach, but also learning from you as a student. That was fantastic, man. I really appreciate it.
My brother, thank you so much for having me, man. Like I said, another brother on a similar mission, same battlefield, same team, same enemy, brother. It's good to connect with you, man.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, have a fantastic day and hopefully we'll talk again.
God bless you, brother. Love you, man.
All right, have a good one.